laughing because I was just reading To Marry the Devil again, just to refresh my memory, and my eyes landed right on the steamiest and sexiest part. So I'm looking at you going, oh my God, is that what
It's
she
strange
wrote?
looking someone in the eyes after you read all about that, isn't it? It's like, okay, what is so much worse and so embarrassing? So
Mhm.
I told my uncle not to buy the book. I was like, it's steamier than the first one. Don't read it. And obviously he ignored me. He bought the book and then he read it. And then he like sent me a message about it. And he left a review being like, well, this was, a lot steamier than I was expected. But I can't say I wasn't warned. And I was just, I don't think I can ever see him ever again.
Well, I am proud of you for being so open about your steamy writing. Welcome, Terri Mackenzie.
Thank you.
So, welcome everyone. Terri Mackenzie is a steamy romance author. She writes contemporary under another pen name as well. Don't let her innocent look deceive you because holy smokes, it's hot. So, she's joining us today to talk about her latest release called To Marry the Devil. And I've read it and it is fantastic. It is so well written. You're not exactly a newbie in terms of writing since you've written Cannibal Dwarfs and Talking Wolves.
Yeah, my bestsellers. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, your bestseller since what? How old were you?
Oh, the Talking Wolves were 7. I was 7. I wrote a fantastic book called Jenny and the Wolves. It was about 2 paragraphs long and featured Jenny waking up in hospital with a broken arm and ended before we got to the wolves. So, it's a real hit. That was when I was 13.
So you already made a name for yourself at
Yeah,
that
although,
age.
of course, that's my real name and not Terri.
Well, subscribe, guys, and I'll give you her real name. I'll give you the name of the school. I'll
My
publish.
dress.
Yeah. So you were obviously born to write. You're a natural. At what point did you decide to write romance novels?
I'm a cliche, walking and talking, and I kind of have always wanted to write. And I've sort of toyed with different genres, as Cannibal Dwarfs kind of illustrates. But I just always really loved reading romance. And at the end of the day, the thing I wanted to do with writing was recreate the things that I read, but the way I wanted them to go. And so I just sort of gravitated towards romance. And then as I got older and more confident, it's just kind of happened to accidentally get steamy as well. I want to write in 3 genres because apparently I hate myself. And so I want to do historical, I'm actively publishing in, and contemporary, kind of like romantic comedy, kind of really lighthearted things, and then sort of like a paranormal romance, which will probably be quite a lot darker, more along the Cannibal Dwarfs line.
Is one genre more challenging than the other?
I would say definitely historical romance, purely because of the research required. There's always going to be research in any book you write, but when you're sort of transplanting and writing all of these things within the confines of another time, there's just so much more to look into and so many things you have to take into account, and things that maybe aren't convenient that you have to work around or just, break the laws of history. You just don't have that to the same extent with contemporary. And in many ways, I find the voice in contemporary more natural because when I write historical romance, I'm thinking about how they would have spoken. And obviously, I'm not recreating that, but I'm sort of hinting at it a little in my prose, which I don't need to do with contemporary.
So you mentioned that you accidentally started writing steamy. How do you accidentally fall into that?
I was actually writing fantasy for a long time, and the romance element of that became more and more prominent. It started with like a cute little kiss and like a little declaration of love, very adorable, very PG. I'm what I like to call a chaos writing. I just write into the void. I sort of have an idea of like a theme or characters or sort of vague idea of what I want to have happen, and then I just go for it. And I actually discovered I really liked writing steamy scenes, writing sex, writing smut, basically. I love that.
Accidentally, of course.
Exactly. I just fell into it. I was going to be all pure and holy, and then I wasn't.
And your husband's like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah, he really embraces it now. He loves telling people that I write smut. He thinks it's hilarious. And I think there must be like a little bit of male pride in it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's like saying I date a stripper. She's hot and she knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
Now, does it impact your personal life?
um, and it is harder to figure out in a historical context certain things. So, for example, in To Marry the Devil, there is a carriage scene where they have sex, and I mean, I've never been inside of a carriage. I wouldn't actually know exactly what it's like. I've watched films with carriages in. I've looked at carriages from the outside. I can imagine. And so I'm just kind of trying to, figure out the logistics. It's useful in that case to have a partner. You can just be like, okay, sit there. Now, how would it work if? And work that out.
Okay.
So you see people's expression change slightly when you reveal that you write steamy, just romance as a living. Some people are like, oh, trash. And other people are like, oh.
You just got more interesting. Well, my husband's the same way. He is very proud of me. But if I give him a manuscript to read, he'll skip all the sex scenes. I'm like, why? That's the best part. And he says, well, it doesn't really add to the plot. I'm like, yes, it does. The emotional connection. It's like, oh, I have porn for that.
I think the only conclusion is to divorce him. I'm really sorry.
Thank you. I deserve all the sympathy I can get. Yeah. Were you tempted at all to not reveal the fact that you're writing steamy to people around you?
So I didn't actually for a long time because I was just, people often look down at romance in general as being sort of slightly inferior. It's not literary fiction. And steamy as well. A lot of people see it as kind of being unnecessary and gratuitous, but I just sort of the last kind of couple of years, I've really just owned it. I'm like, yeah, this is who I am. This is what I write. This is what I enjoy writing. And I'm not going to be ashamed of it because I'm not like the next Stephen King. I've come to terms with it. I only cry every night into my pillow. It's fine. No, I'm kidding.
Which I disagree with, by the way. I think you have the potential to be Stephen King. And I think to write romance well, you have to be emotionally connected. You have to be super observant, super detailed. And we have to create a plot and we have to link them together. There has to be a surprise. There has to be tension. There has to be comedy. I mean, like with mystery, suspense is one-dimensional. But I think romance, I mean, it's not the only genre, but I think romance is one of the multidimensional, more intellectual pursuits, in my opinion. No bias here. No, not because I'm a romance author or anything like that. No, it's just a fact. We're better than everyone else.
Yeah, we right? just are, and the sooner they come to terms with it, the better.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to be superior. It's a lonely place to be up here. But you guys, it's okay. You do you. We'll do us. So tell me about To Marry the Devil. It's the book 2 of a series. Is there a relationship between the two books? What's the name of the series?
It's called Finders Keepers, which I won't lie I realized when I was writing the first book that I wanted to give the series a name, so it kind of all connected. It's following the Beaumont family. So the first one is Theodosia Beaumont, and she marries Nathaniel Hardinger, who is the Duke of Norfolk. And then the second book is about Annabelle, who obviously gets into a fake engagement and then eventually marries Jacob Barrington. Yeah, I called it Finders Keepers because I was kind of like, these women find their men and then they keep them. And that was the whole thought that went behind it.
Tell me about To Marry the Devil.
Jacob has grown up sort of despised by his father and brother and rebelled against it, becoming dissolute. And eventually when we open the story, we see that he just wants nothing to do with his family name and to kind of drag it into the mud as many ways as possible. He's really just very vulnerable and hurting, but in a way that kind of is almost aggressively dissolute. And then we have Annabelle, who is socially anxious. She's basically me. She just wants to read a book in peace, god damn it. And after they accidentally meet in a library, he kisses her thinking that she's someone else. Whoops. I know, I'm full of accidents. Happy little accidents.
I love that scene.
I also love that scene. It was one of my favorites to write. So word gets out, then to save her reputation, they agree to become engaged. And in trying to find her another husband, Jacob slowly and inevitably falls in love with her.
He tries to find her another husband because it's
an
enemies to lovers story, isn't it?
Yeah, so they really don't like each other at first. He is everything that she's been warned about. He's a hardened rake, and he drinks way too much. Like he's so flawed, and that's one of the many things I love about him. I think he's one of my favorite characters I've ever written.
I feel like badasses.
Not interesting enough to really catch his attention. But then he teaches her to flirt, to capture the attention of other men, and then, obviously once she does in any capacity, he's wildly jealous. And yeah, so it's definitely enemies to lovers. I wanted it to have enough of that simmer and slow burn underneath, and so eventually, like when they come together, I wanted it to kind of be explosive, which hopefully it was. And also in a library. Is there any better setting?
Nope. Let me just ice, please. Where's my ice boy?
Yeah.
So what kind of research went into writing that book?
I did a lot of research into boxing, actually, because I decided one of Jacob's vices was to box. I
love boxing, man.
Me too. But there's something so sexy about like sweat-slicked, half-naked men.
And just so raw.
Absolutely. Hey, baby. Yeah, so I did a lot of research into boxing, and I tweaked the reality a bit, because the majority of kind of big boxing matches like that would have happened outside of London. And originally I actually had Jacob travel out a lot more, but I ditched it for convenience sake, because I wanted Annabelle obviously to be able to go there and see that and see him, which I thought was very important.
What made you add a boxing scene?
So I introduced the fact that Jacob boxed fairly early on, and I wanted Annabelle to be able to see the raw way he was hurting behind all of his arrogance and his swagger and his drawl. And I felt that to put her sort of in his world was just going to be really important, just for the development of their relationship. From there, she goes to his house, and that's kind of their first moment where like he confesses about his past, and they have this real tenderness, and then obviously there's the library scene that follows on from that. So I really feel like I knew I needed something, and as I started to write that particular scene, I knew it was right and it needed to be there.
That makes sense, because he was showing his pain on the outside instead of hiding and repressing and pretending. So it was really very symbolic as well as very literal.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So did you find anything else interesting about boxing in those days?
Basically, there were very few rules beyond. So gloves didn't come in really until a bit later in the 19th century. They could just go for rounds and rounds and rounds. Eating an orange, I'm pretty sure I can't remember what they're called now, but there really were people who would like kneel for the boxers to sit on their knees to have like a makeshift seat, especially because most of these boxing rings were held outdoors, just in the middle of a field or somewhere, so they wouldn't have had furniture, chairs, all of these other things, which is one of the reasons that gentlemen didn't really box in boxing matches. Like obviously they boxed as a form of sport, but they didn't take part in the boxing. They betted on it and they watched it, which is what makes Jacob different again and sort of rebelling against the norms of the time and what it meant in Regency society to be a gentleman, which is a theme kind of throughout the book. And then you see him sort of realizing that his life ruled by bitterness isn't actually paying off any sort of debt or taking revenge. He was just ruining his own life.
Doing it to feel alive because he was dead inside.
And then Annabelle came and restarted his heart.
And freed him from the traps that he made for himself.
So the first book I had, Theo, she was a character that was kind of solid in my mind. And I was like, oh, who would she work well with? What would her challenges be? And hers was to realize that romance wasn't this kind of grand thing. It was just this almost overlooked beautiful thing that was sprouting in her backyard, Then obviously we had Annabelle and Jacob. And Annabelle, she's timid, she's shy, and she's soft. And I wanted her to kind of be able to introduce some of that softness to someone who had taught himself to be very hard in every way. And then the third book is going to be the older brother. So we meet him very briefly in the second book. Henry, he doesn't come off very well, bless him. He's very dutiful and he's very rigid and he's very like, family comes first. You must do what it takes to look out for your family. And then we have Louisa, who we also meet, who was just a spur of the moment character and became just one of my favorites ever. And she's gonna really put Henry in his place. It's just fantastic. I love that.
I love how you make your character sound like he's not your problem.
I wouldn't want him to be my problem. I love him, to clarify, but like, man, he's got a lot of shit to work through.
So out of the three, who would you date?
Absolutely Jacob.
Okay.
Without a doubt. I am full. I love a rake.
But who would you marry?
I'd probably marry Nathaniel because he's like a real solid option and he's really nice and like he would treat me well. And let's be honest, in real life, I do want stability.
Yeah, we have double standard. Yeah.
In fiction, I want something else entirely. My husband always jokes that I never write a man that's like him. And I'm like, well, no, it's a fantasy. Not necessarily date the troubled heroes I write.
And your females go through so much. Annabelle especially goes through so much because of the way Jacob is. So
she does. Poor girl. She has more patience than I do, that's for sure.
I would have been out of there, after the first date. Okay, maybe with that kiss, maybe not.
Yeah, the kiss, and then there's a lot of tension between them, which potentially would have kept me around. But
it's sizzling, people. You have to read it. It's sizzling. I love it. What trope does your relationship with your husband fall under?
Ooh, I want to say friends to lovers, and I do mean friends to lovers. But I will say that the friendship was very short before the lovers began. The whole virgin hero thing was because Louisa is very confident sexually. She's openly had a bunch of lovers. She's widowed. And I say openly, obviously, within the society. And then I wanted to pair her with someone who was very, I guess, frigid, who had like this iron self-control, who'd made a vow of chastity, who was determined to uphold it. And I just wanted her to like blaze through all of his restraint. That was my whole premise for the entire book. I was like, that sounds hot.
Yeah. I'm gonna make it work no matter what. Just for that.
And then I had to try and find a plot that worked with that, which has just been a whole headache. I hate plots. Who needs plot? Let's just write tension and like
exactly.
And sex.
Yeah. Apparently readers don't like it. I mean,
apparently, I don't really get it, but fine.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, they're weird. I mean, I don't want you to give anything away. Read the freaking book, guys. So writing in two different genres, what is more fun?
It's fun in different ways. Hey, baby, it's okay.
And I need to focus. This is not just for winging, There's some careful master planning involved. People don't know what it's like to be an influencer. I have 30 subscribers.
Sounds like my newsletter. Okay.
I know. And when you see somebody unsubscribing from newsletter, it's like, why did you stab my heart? What did I do?
Why would you do that? I was just like, I thought my newsletter's really fun. Okay. Guess you don't like my personality and my smut. Fine.
I guess you wish I wasn't born. Okay.
Yeah, it's clearly like a real deep-seated hatred rather than just like, not for me. I think they're fun in different ways. One of the things I love about historical is that because there were so many rules dictating the behavior of women, there's so much potential for kind of like yearning. I love a yearn. And having to kind of sneak around and, if they're gonna have sex, and they're not married, obviously, then it's probably going to be some kind of, they're gonna have to do it in secret, sneak away to do it. She's gonna have to like turn up at his house and he's gonna have to worry that someone's seen her, or they're gonna watch each other from across the ballroom and the air between them is gonna go thick and heavy with want, and they're gonna like have to find an unoccupied room and hope no one comes in, barricade the door. I just feel like that adds so much of an extra edge. But at the same time, it can be really hard to kind of orchestrate excuses and reasons for them to be together. And for it to sort of even, I mean, obviously it's not going to be historically accurate, but you know, you've got to like at least give a nod to the period you're writing in, right? So you can't just sort of like have them brazenly doing stuff. And it's much, access is a lot easier in contemporary. And there are more reasons for a woman to be alone and then encounter a man alone. Oh no, what could happen? Oh, is there only one bed? What a shock. Like my favorite trope. But I love the glitz and the glamour of just historical fiction in general. And I really know that in reality, it wasn't all glitz and glamour, but I definitely do acknowledge that that's still a thing. But at the same time, I really love the clothes, and I really like a man in a cravat and a waistcoat gets me every time. And then when you take the cravat off and then you just see the column of throat and then the white shirt underneath. Right?
Oh, yes. Cravat draped around a man's neck nowadays.
It tends to be like, I don't know, coming out of a convenient pond, and so now his white shirt is see-through and stuck to his naked body. I mean, and who's complaining?
That's true. There's so much more tension built in that you can work with, which I think would make contemporary more difficult to keep sex fresh, or you have to be more creative to create tension, right?
Absolutely. And not have them have sex, that's kind of like you've got to perform mental acrobatics to figure out why they wouldn't. Whereas it's like the opposite in historical
that's the challenge. That's true.
So I have that with, so my third novella is released today, and I wrote the first one on a whim, and they were literally, it was when the Queen died and there was the Great London Queue, and I was like, wouldn't it be cute if you like met your future husband or whatever in the queue? Adorable. So I wrote that. It was really short, like 18,000 words, and it was all in the queue. So obviously nothing happened. And then I wrote the next one, which was about the first girl's friend, and she's staying in like this little cottage with this guy, and she's so horny. She's basically me. She's so thirsty. Like she's constantly thirsting after him. And I was just like, I really feel like I should keep it short and no sex, because the first one was, and don't want to, like, if readers are reading it hoping for something similar in vibe, I don't want to just like bombard them with like, and then they banged again. But it was a challenge. And then obviously I wrote a steamy epilogue for newsletter subscribers. How to reel them in. And the same with this one. Again, they're really short. But this one is, she's like trapped in like a cabin on a mountain with this Norwegian man, and there's only one bed, and I was like, how the hell am I going to not have them have sex? How? He definitely gets hard on numerous occasions.
One thing I don't like in any romance novel is when they're separated and I have to waste my time on getting to know their friends or friends' friends.
Literally, who cares? I just want them to be in the same place and having like delicious tension or delicious sex or whatever.
Anything delicious.
Anything delicious. I'm down.
No one like you, Cassidy Hart. Go get it today, guys. Get it. It's gonna be good no matter what.
Boy.
That better be your husband. If it's anything with four legs, then I'm offended. So if you could give an advice to somebody starting out, what would you?
I would say that it will not be easy, and you probably won't get it right first time, and that is okay. The many joys of self-publishing is that you do have the freedom and the liberty to do it again. So if you publish a book that maybe isn't very good, or you realize the cover isn't on a genre, or you realize you haven't marketed it very well up to its release, you can always, fix the typos or rebrand or do a big marketing push 6 months down the line. You have the freedom to go back and fix it and make it good. And in time, you will learn so much that you didn't even realize there was to learn. But also, there is no right and wrong way to publish, I think I would say. People give a lot of black and white advice. So they say, you must do this, 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 and this. And if it works for you, then great. But maybe there's a different path for you that will work, and you just have to find it.
That's a great advice. But how does that feel, knowing that your author friends are masturbating to your story?
Honestly, I feel a little proud. Like, if it's good enough to get someone like flustered and like, whew, better go sort myself out. I mean, I'm just like, yeah, I have succeeded in my goal.
Yes, especially from a fellow Steamy author, right? Who's
I
read
think
a
your
lot of it.
standards are gonna be pretty high. You've done like, I mean, your books are so steamy compared to mine.
Yes. Yes, my book is great. Thank you.
Absolutely, go read it.
Thank you very much for joining us today. It was a delight to have you on this channel, and I wish you all the best of luck with your new release coming up, as well as To Marry the Devil. Buy her books. They are great. Such wonderful, amazing writing and great plots and lots of tension. And as you can see, Terri Mackenzie is very funny, and that works into her stories as well. So Terri Mackenzie, Cassidy Hart, buy them all. She's part of Historical Hoydens, so follow us on Facebook.
Hoydens.
Thanks again, and I hope to have you on this channel again soon after your new release.
I would be delighted. This has been so much fun. I'll give you time to, read it and like get it out of your system first.
Get you out of my system first. Oh, I can't handle her right now. Book her next year.
Thank you so much. This has been great.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Britain. Bye, Uncle. Give us your opinion on Facebook. Make it public.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll follow you.
If you watch this, I will bury you.